Alright, we are continuing our lessons on three variable systems. Today we're focusing on real world applications, which means money. Who doesn't love money? So we are going to read through this problem. We are going to figure out what our three variables are. We are going to write the three equations, and then we are going to solve. So Marina had $24,500 to invest. She divided the money into three accounts. At the end of the year, she made $1,300 in interest. The annual yield on each of these accounts was 4%, 5.5%, and 6%. If the amount of money in the 4% account was 4 times the amount of money in the 5.5% account, how much had she placed in each account? So the first thing I'm going to do is define my three variables. I'm going to use X, Y, and Z. You can use any three letters you'd like. So I'm going to let X be the amount of money that she invested in the account that had 4% interest, okay? That's how we're going to differentiate between each of these accounts, the amount of interest. Then I'm going to let Y be the amount she invested at 5.5% interest. And lastly, Z will be the amount of money she invested at 6% interest. So that's what my three variables mean. What I'm going to do now is write my three equations. So the total she had to invest was $24,500. So that means X plus Y plus Z is $24,500. The amount in each account should total to that amount. At the end of the year, she had $1,300 earned from interest. So that means 4%, which we're going to convert to a decimal, 0.04% of X, plus 5.5% of Y, which is 0.055 as a decimal Y, plus 6% of Z, 0.06Z. That should total to $1,300. Not 13,000. One too many zeros. Oopsie. I'm sure she'd like it if it was 13,000, but it was $1,300. Okay, the last equation is going to come from that final sentence, the amount of money in the 4% account. Well, we said that that's X. So that was 4 times the amount of money in the 5.5% account, which we said was Y. So there are my three equations. Now, you know how to solve a three variable system at this point. You have learned substitution and elimination. I'm going to suggest substitution because you already have one of your variables solved for another. So I am going to substitute X equals 4Y into equation 1 and into equation 2. So starting with equation 1, that's going to be 4Y plus Z equals 24,500. So equation A will be 5Y plus Z equals 24,500. Then I am going to substitute this into equation 2. 0.04 times 4y plus 0.055y plus 0.06z equals 1,300. So 0.04 times 4 is going to be 0.16. 0.16y plus 0.055y will give me a total of 0.215y plus 0.06z equals 1,300, and there is equation B. Now I need to figure out substitution or elimination in order to solve. What I'm going to do is look at my z's, and I'm going to cancel my z's, eliminate z. If I multiply equation A by negative 0.06, then my z's will cancel. Well, 5 times negative 0.06 is going to be negative 0.3y minus 0.06z equals 24,500 times negative 0.06 is going to be negative 1,470. So these cancel. 0.215y minus 0.3y is going to be negative 0.085y, and that will be equal to negative 170. After I divide, I will get that y is 2,000. Okay. Now that I know y, I can find x by plugging into equation 3. So x is going to be 4 times 2,000, which is 8,000. And then lastly, I need to find z. I'm just going to go with equation 1 because I won't have to multiply anything. So 8,000 plus 2,000 plus z is 24,500. So this is going to be 10,000. 24,500 minus 10,000 is going to be 14,500. So my solution is 8,000, 2,000, 14,500. But what does that mean in the context of this problem? What were x, y, and z? Well, this means that Marina invested, x was 8,000, so $8,000 in the 4% account. Okay, y was 2,000, so she invested $2,000 in the 5.5% account. And lastly, z was 14,500, so she invested $14,500 in the 6% account. So now, once we have defined our variables, our answer is going to have meaning. Okay, let's do one more example. To make ends meet, Mrs. Farnsby works 3 jobs. Her total income last year was $48,000. Her income from teaching was $6,000 more than her income from house painting. Royalties from her textbook sales were 1/7 of the total money she received from teaching and house painting. So she's working 3 jobs. So again, I am going to use x, y, and z. You can use whatever variables you like. But those 3 variables are going to represent her income from her 3 different jobs. Well, what were those 3 jobs? One of them was teaching. So I'm going to say x is her money from teaching. Her second job was from house painting, so y is going to be her money from painting. And the last job they talk about is textbook royalties, so I'm going to let z be the money she makes from her textbooks. Again, I've got 3 variables. I need to write 3 equations. So her total income was $48,000. That means that x plus y plus z is going to be $48,000. Her income from teaching was $6,000 more than her income from house painting. So teaching equals $6,000 more than house painting, which we called y. And then her money from textbooks was 1/7 of the money she received from teaching and house painting. So there are my 3 equations. We know how to solve 3 variable systems. So what I am going to do first is I'm going to rewrite this so that I don't have a fraction. I'm going to multiply by 7 on both sides so that 7z equals x plus y. And now again, I've already got one of my variables isolated, so I'm going to use substitution again. If you would rather use elimination, that's perfectly fine. But I am going to substitute x into equation 1 first. So y plus 6,000 plus y plus z equals 48,000. So 2y plus z, after I subtract the 6,000, that'll be 42,000. There's equation A. For equation B, I'm going to plug this into equation 3. So 7z will equal y plus 6,000 plus y. I want all my variables to be on one side, so this becomes 2y. I'm going to subtract it. Negative 2y plus 7, started writing my 7 too soon, 7z equals 6,000, and that will be my equation B. Now, looking as these are written, my y's are going to cancel without me having to do any manipulation. So I'm going to go on to do elimination here. And I get that 8z equals 48,000. If I divide both sides by 8, I'm going to get that z is 6,000. Once I know z, I can find y pretty quickly. I'm going to use this equation. Take that back. I'm going to use equation A. So 2y plus 6,000 equals 42,000. After I subtract, that means that 2y will be equal to 36,000. After I divide, y is 18,000. So the last thing I need to do is find x. I'm going to use equation 2 for that. So x will be 18,000 plus 6,000, which is 24,000. So my solution is 24,000, comma, 18,000, comma, 6,000. But what does that mean in terms of my variables? Well, that means that Miss F earned $24,000 teaching. She earned $18,000 from painting and $6,000 from her textbooks. And there you have it. That is how you use math to talk about money with your 3 variable systems.